The top stories tonight in Y News. Lawmakers lament the loss of billions of pesos worth of funds under the Bayanihan 2, which aims to keep the government's COVID-19 response afloat.
The Department of Health urges local government units to limit the working hours of vaccination teams.
Volcanic gas emission from Taal volcano has now reached the national capital region and nearby provinces.
And Valenzuela City Mayor Rex Gatchalian orders the suspension of the business permit of the company that paid the wages of one of its employees in low-denomination coins. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Wednesday, June 30, 2021. I am Herlene Delgado.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the country and in other parts of the world. I'm Mangelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news. The Bayanihan to Recover as One Act, also known as the Bayanihan 2, expires today, June 30. Based on the data of the Departments of Budget and Management, as of June 15, around 6.4 billion pesos have yet to be obligated by 9 government agencies, including the Departments of Education, Social Welfare and Development, and Public Works and Highways with 1 billion pesos each. Also included are Departments of Agriculture, Interior and Local Government, Health and Labor and Employment. According to Budget Secretary Wendell Avisado, since the reports were submitted on June 15, the actual unobligated allotments could be less than 5 billion pesos as of today. He added that there are other funds that can be still used by the agencies until the end of the year. For its part, DepEd explains most of the funds have already been disbursed, noting that the agency have obligated 3.5 billion pesos out of its Bayanihan allocation worth 4.3 billion pesos. The agency cited some challenges in utilizing the funds, including the complexity of the procurement projects, failed biddings, and fulfillment of documents such as the purchase of laptops for teachers that took some time to complete. Meanwhile, the DPWH clarifies the figure, noting that they have obligated 976 million pesos out of the 1 billion peso allotment under the Tourism Road Infrastructure Program in the Bayanihan Law. The UNTV News is still trying to reach out to other concerned implementing agencies. Meanwhile, in a television interview, House Deputy Speaker and Cagayan de Oro City Representative Rufus Rodriguez emphasized that no obligation and expenses are allowed under the Bayanihan 2 starting tomorrow, or else it will be considered as technical malversation. The lawmaker has been urging the executive department to call for a special session to revive and extend once again the validity of the law. For his part, Senate Minority Leader Franklin Drilon believes President Duterte is hesitant to call for a special session, knowing that there would no more funds to fund the programs. The palace has yet to confirm with finality whether or not President Rodrigo Duterte will call for such session. However, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque on Monday expressed confidence that the funds will be obligated before the law expires. The Quezon City government has terminated its contract with Zualig Pharma Corporation, the firm behind Easy Consult, following a series of technical difficulties. Janice Inhenta explains why.
Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte disclosed that Zualig Pharma Corporation initially reported an upgrade that allowed its system to accommodate up to 50,000 users at a time. However, their system crashed again when the city opened new vaccination slots. That is why Belmonte decided to end its deal with the company. Some residents had to endure a queuing system to book a slot, with some having to wait for months.
Easy Consult siguro mga May pa ata ako nag-register, and before approve, bago ako ma-approve ng 3 weeks before ma-approve. Tapos nung na-approve ako, for every time naman na nagtatry ako for appointment once na may dumating na vaccines, unfortunately hindi ako nakakuha ng slots. So madali mo na uubos. And then may time na nagkakaroon ng system maintenance.
Well, nag-register po ako doon nung parang this June lang din. Tapos parang sinasabi rin na sa madaling araw, madali daw maka-access, makahanap ng slots. Pero ang nangyayari, parang isang linggo, 2 linggo na yung dumaan, wala talaga.
The city government recently issued an ultimatum to Zulig to improve its system and provide all the deliverables. The city government is considering filing civil and criminal charges against the company for failure to meet its contractual obligation to the local government.
To the legal department because they are the ones in charge of reviewing the contract and its content as well as the nature of any kind of damages that we can possibly file pertaining to this particular issue. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Del Monte urged city residents who are having a hard time registering on the Easy Consult website to instead register at the city government-assisted QC Vax Easy portal. Those who were able to book a slot for July 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6 are advised to proceed to the vaccination site of their choice as scheduled. The city government stressed that until the contract termination has been finalized, all ongoing bookings are valid. Those scheduled for second dose should also follow the date indicated in their card and take the job at the same site where they had their first dose. Janice Inhente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, the Department of Health or DOH urged local government units or LGUs to limit the work hours of vaccination terms and regularly rotate the shift of healthcare workers following the viral video of a nurse who failed to properly administer a COVID-19 vaccine dose. The DOH said LGUs should deck vaccinators every 8 hours to minimize fatigue and ensure quality of service. Healthcare workers at jab sites should also have an assistant to lessen their work. The DOH added that healthcare workers administering COVID-19 shots have been given a refresher course on vaccination protocols as more reports of vaccinators failing to administer the proper dose came to light. It also reminded vaccinators to exercise due diligence and take extra care and attention during the inoculation process. The San Juan government became the first local government to administer coronavirus vaccines made by American pharmaceutical company Moderna to its residents. Marvin Calas will tell us why live. Yes, Marvin, good evening. How many Moderna vaccine doses were administered today and who are the priorities?
Yes, William, 9,000 doses of Moderna vaccines were allotted for inoculation today by the San Juan local government, prioritizing overseas Filipino workers for vaccination. While the other 900 doses were reserved for its second dose, a total of 1,800 doses of Moderna vaccines were given to the city. San Juan City Mayor Francis Zamora says they decided to dedicate the first batch of Moderna vaccines for the OFWs as it is the most common brand recognized in several countries. The local government have coordinated with its OFW residents and were advised for their scheduled inoculation. However, some were not able to attend at the vaccination center, prompting the LGU to inoculate the Moderna vaccines to other priority groups.
It will be useless for them to get vaccinated with a vaccine that is not accepted in the countries they are going to. So we kept a database of these people. Now, nung dumating nga itong Moderna, tinawagan namin sila. Kaya nandito sila ngayon upang mabakunahan sila ng bakuna na tatanggapin sa mga bansang pupuntahan nila.
On the other hand, the Moderna vaccination in San Juan City served as a good opportunity for the OFWs and other Filipinos planning to go abroad.
Mas okay at na bakunahan ako ng Moderna at saka yun naman ang required dun sa Saudi Arabia. Nakauwi ako ng 2019, namatay po yung asawa ko. So, widow na po ako.
Petition po kasi ako ng asawa ko sa US. Ang tinatanggap lang po nila doon is Pfizer at saka Moderna. Kaya nag-antay po talaga ako na magkaroon ng vaccine na Pfizer or Moderna. Sobrang makakatulong sa akin and sobrang thankful po ako sa San Juan, sa LGU namin. At least, nagbigay sila ng ganitong opportunity na mabakunahan kami.
As of June 29, more than 81% or equivalent to more than 70,000 of the target population in San Juan were inoculated with the first dose of COVID-19 vaccines. According to Mayor Zamora, the city is nearly reaching its 85,000 target population in attaining herd immunity. The City Health Department shows that active COVID-19 cases in the city significantly decreased to 85 active cases over its 1,200 cases recorded during the surge in April last month.
So we are seeing and feeling the effects of the vaccination program. Kaya ako naniniwala ito talaga ang game changer natin sa laban sa COVID. Ito ang magtatapos sa COVID-19. At bagamat dito nga sa San Juan nagsimula ang COVID-19 nung nakarang taon, ay dito rin natin unang tatapusin ang COVID-19.
Meanwhile, the Manila local government received its 22,800 doses of Moderna vaccines, while the schedule for vaccination is still awaited. That's your latest live. Back to you, William.
Yes, thank you, Marvin Callas, reporting live.
Preliminary findings of the Department of Science and Technology shows that Lagundi can help in treating the symptoms of mild COVID-19 in patients. Dante Amento tells us why.
The Department of Science and Technology, or DOST, has concluded Phase 2 of the clinical trial on the use of Lagundi to treat mild symptoms of COVID-19. Based on the preliminary findings, the sense of smell of mild COVID-19 patients returned much faster after getting administered with Lagundi. A total of 278 COVID-19 patients with mild symptoms from various institutes participated in the trial. The participants were then divided into two groups. One was given Lagundi, while the second group was the placebo group. Those were not given the herbal medicine. According to DOST Secretary Fortunato de la Peña, no adverse effects has been observed in all participants.
Ang pagkakaiba lang po nila, unang-una, yung mga naglagundi, madaling nagbalik yung kanilang pang-amoy. Kasi po isa sa mga simptomas ay yung pagkawala ng panlasa, pagkawala ng pang-amoy, ubo, sakit na lalamunan, lagnat, nahirapang huminga.
Once the analysis is completed, the DOST is looking into continuing the trial for moderate COVID-19 cases. The department also hopes that the Department of Health will recommend the use of Lagundi for mild COVID-19 patients.
Kung maganda yung resulta, ito ay inaasahan namin na sana naman ay recommend ng ating DOH at pwede rin ituloy ang trials para sa mga moderate cases.
The department official, however, clarified that the use of Lagundi does not prevent COVID-19 and that getting vaccinated is still encouraged. He said that the herbal medicine would only help in ridding the symptoms of COVID-19. Meanwhile, the clinical trial for virgin coconut oil is set to get completed in July. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Philippines' cumulative tally of COVID-19 cases has reached 1,412,559 after the Department of Health, or DOH, reported 4,509 additional infections. In its latest bulletin, the DOH said the country's number of active cases went down to 48,649. Of this, 90.6% are mild, 4.1% are asymptomatic, 1.63% are moderate, 2.2% are severe, and 1.5% are in critical condition. The DOH also reported that the total recoveries rose to 1,339,248 after 5,839 more patients recovered from the disease. The death toll climbed to 24,662 with 105 new fatalities. The agency noted that 6 accredited testing laboratories failed to submit data on time.
For those watching our 24/7 live streaming on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
Malacanang hits back at Senator Manny Pacquiao for alleging that there were irregularities in the government's COVID-19 response. The senator yesterday identified the Department of Health as the first government agency that should be investigated for its expenses for the COVID-19 response. DOH Secretary Francisco Duque III said he was disheartened by the corruption allegations of the senator. Rosalie Cos explains why.
Malacanang questioned the timing of Senator Manny Pacquiao's corruption allegations against the Department of Health. According to presidential spokesperson Harry Roque, Pacquiao could have asked Health Secretary Francisco Duque III during the Senate inquiry 2 weeks ago how the COVID-19 response budget was utilized.
Yan na nga po yung aking sinabi, no? Kasi nanggaling na po si Secretary Duque doon sa Senado. Nag-explain na po siya doon at wala naman pong kasong naisampa matapos po yung explanation ni Secretary Duque. At hindi ko nga lang po alam kung nandun nga po siya nung nag-hearing po ang Senado at kung meron siya mga tanong na ibinato kay Secretary Duque ng mga pagkakataon na yun.
The boxer turned lawmaker was not present during the upper chamber hearing on vaccine procurement on June 15, 2021. Meanwhile, in a statement, though DOH Secretary Duque is disheartened by the allegations against the agency, he expressed willingness to cooperate with any investigation on how health department's funds were used. The health chief stands firm that the DOH has always been transparent in relation to their fund utilization. The palace believes politics is behind the statements of the lawmaker against the Duterte administration and lets the people decide on who they want to lead the country through the 2022 elections. Rosa Licos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
An official of the ruling party PDP-Laban wants a debate on corruption to end, describing it as pointless. Meanwhile, some members of the opposition believes that the ruling party will eventually split with the looming ouster of its party president Manny Pacquiao as he locks horns with President Duterte. But is the opposition willing to accept the senator should he leave the party? Arlene Delgado filed this report.
Senator Aquilino Coco Pimentel, who serves as the executive vice chairman of the PDP-Laban, has now expressed his sentiments over the word war between President Rodrigo Duterte, the chairman of the party, and Senator Manny Pacquiao, the party's president. According to Pimentel, the two should not waste time in debating on the level of corruption in the government, saying that it is a pointless and endless debate. Earlier, Pimentel noted that the rift between the president and Pacquiao has been distracting the party in its preparations for the 2022 elections. Meanwhile, for some members of the opposition, it will be no surprise that the party will eventually split and Pacquiao will be removed as the party president.
Ako hindi ako nagugulat. Mangyayari yan because PDP-Laban naman, in fact, hindi mo nga alam kung sino yung tunay na gusto ng administration. Because bagamat gusto nilang tanggalin si Manny sa PDP, ang pinupush nila is Bongo Duterte. So ano nangyari dun sa run?
I expect Manny Pacquiao to be removed as party president of PDP-Laban. And signal is that the president told Secretary Cusi go ahead and convene that committee in Cebu last month. Pag nahati ang administrasyon, given all the resources, given all the troll farms and resources that they have, certainly a split will help the opposition.
But is the Liberal Party open to adopt Pacquiao should he leave PDP-Laban? Senate Minority Leader Franklin Trilon has this to say.
Anything can happen except that we have certain principles and platforms in the party. Our concentration in the party today is to prepare if eventually, in eventuality, that Leni Robredo runs for president. Pag hindi siya tumakbo sa pagka-vice presidente, we are open to alliances. We are open to discussion.
Meanwhile, former Senator Antonio Trillanes IV called the opposition's possible fielding of Pacquiao as presidential candidate as unacceptable. However, LP Vice President for Internal Affairs Teddy Bagilat claims Vice President Leni Robredo is now open with the idea of boosting her profile as a presidential candidate.
Pero right now, open na siya. At least, sinasabi niya sa amin na, sige, gawin natin ang ating makakaya para mapalakas yung aking survey ratings, no? Para mapalakas yung impression posibleng presidential candidate for 2022.
Jorlene Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The National Housing Authority commits to provide more homes for 350,000 poor families until the end of the Duterte administration. But the government says they cannot reach the housing backlog in the country. Nel Maribohol reports why.
President Rodrigo Duterte recently asked the National Housing Authority or NHA to construct free housing to families living under bridges and near waterways. But the president admits that they cannot provide housing to all the informal settlers.
Para sa akin, unahin natin yung nakatira sa ilalim ng tulay at kung saan man kayo naroon, paalamin lang ninyo at gagawa tayong mga bahay. Hindi ko lahat mabigyan mga kababayan ko kasi wala namang ganong karaming pera, materials at trabahante.
According to NHA General Manager Marcelino Escalada Jr., 350,000 housing units will be completed next year.
We are happy to report to the country that we have produced more or less close to 325,000 already. Almost 300,000, I mean. So towards the end of the year ng Duterte administration next year, I'm looking at the figure around 350,000.
Housing beneficiaries will start paying 300 to 400 pesos per month. The NHA chief says he will prioritize the provision of in-city resettlement sites.
Ang policy ko is dapat in-city siya, within the city proper, and at the same time, lakihan yung floor area. Na from 22, at least gawin natin 28, with one partition or two partition, na may bedroom naman. At saka disente naman yung pabahay na gagawin ng NHA.
The NHA also understood that most beneficiaries prefer their homes near their work, which is mainly in Metro Manila. However, Escalada believes that the location of their housing units are safe and better for growing families.
Yung construction ng pabahay it will take you 24 months to 36 months. So meaning to say, 2 years or 3 years pa bago natin maibigay yung gusto nila na locations. But there are available now, and I also feel na itong mga available sites natin ngayon in Rizal, in Cavite, as well as in Bulacan, are better sites.
Based on NHA's data, the country needs to build 6.5 million housing units for poor families. The NHA has up to 1.7 million shares from the said backlog, and the rest will be built by the private sector through bank and pag-ibig financing. Nel Maribuho, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And for the news abroad, as the deadlier coronavirus Delta variant dominates Indonesia, the nation's health system is on the verge of collapse. Maeve Dog will give us the details live. Yes, Maeve?
Kat, the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent, or IFRC, has warned that Indonesia is getting closer to a COVID-19 catastrophe due to the surge of the more infectious Delta variant in the country. According to a statement of Jan Gelfand, the head of RFIC Indonesia, this pushes the said Southeast Asian nation towards a health system collapse and an urgent need of medical supplies and COVID vaccines to prevent thousands of deaths. According to Senior Health Ministry official Siti Nadia Termizi, several hospitals have exceeded occupancy caused by the spike in the infections. This was observed after a recent national holiday where people defied the health protocols. As of Wednesday morning, Indonesia recorded 2,156,465 cases and 58,024 deaths. Kath?
Yes, Maeve, what is the current situation in the vaccine rollout of Indonesia, and are there any actions from the government regarding this looming crisis?
Yes, Kath, Indonesia is struggling with the slow pace of vaccination. As of current, less than 5% of its 270 million population is fully immunized. IFRC also noted that the country is facing inequity in acquiring the needed doses to achieve herd immunity. The government of President Joko Widodo is planning to impose a lockdown and had said that he wants to see 1 million doses to be administered per day to accelerate the vaccination. The COVID shots are now available to anyone over 18 years of age. Back to you, Kat.
Thank you, Maven Dog, reporting live from Queensland, Australia. 5 countries have yet to begin immunization programs in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. According to the World Health Organization, or WHO, they are supporting COVID-19 immunization campaigns in Burundi, Eritrea, Haiti, North Korea, and Tanzania. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus wanted every country to start vaccinating their health workers and those most vulnerable to COVID-19 disease within the first 100 days of 2021, a date that passed in April. The COVAX facility aimed at ensuring poorer countries get access to vaccines has so far delivered 89 million doses to 133 participating territories. But supply lines have all dried up this month, according to the WHO. Extreme heat reigns over the Pacific Northwest of the U.S., initiating planned power outages and heat-related deaths across states. Marvi Dauphin tells us the details live. Marvi?
Kath, the severe heat waves which tackle the likes of Seattle and Portland, Oregon in the northwest of the U.S. on Tuesday has begun to move inland. This has initiated Spokane, Washington to continue with rolling blackouts, balancing the supply of electricity to counteract high electrical usage. Customers of energy company Avista Utilities reported power outages, while Avista Energy disclosed that there would be more outages expected. Seattle and Portland for days reported highly dangerous temperatures, more than 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 37.7 degrees Celsius, which could be linked to the deaths suffered by Oregon and Washington. The temperatures are anticipated to decrease though. On the other hand, a rapid increase was experienced by Spokane, where temperatures reached 109 degrees Fahrenheit or 42.4 degrees Celsius. According to the King County Medical Examiner's Office, a Seattle woman aged 65 years and a Washington woman aged 68 years passed away due to the extreme heat, with their bodies going into hyperthermia or overheating. A nursery worker in Oregon also passed away suspectedly from the heat wave. The crew was called in, and when numbers were counted, one was deemed missing, who was later found unresponsive in the field. Other deaths were reported in Washington and Oregon, all claimed by the high records of heat wave. Kath?
Marvi, what is driving the northwest of the U.S. to experience such high and severe heat waves?
Kath, this heat wave which the U.S. is suffering from is actually driven by a heat dome. Heat domes are high-pressure systems which push down the warm air which has been lifted in the atmosphere back down to the ground. As it is being pushed down, it increases in temperature by compression. Sunlight is increased with the presence of a heat dome as the dome itself moves the clouds around them, and this only adds more heat. Though heat domes are very common in the summer, it has only been worsened by climate change caused by human pollution. Back to you, Kath.
All right, thank you, Marvi Dauphin, reporting live from Australia. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I am Kat Dumaraos, live from Bangkok, Thailand. Good evening.
The Valenzuela city government has suspended the business permit of the factory that paid one of its workers in 5 and 10 centavo coins. Asher Kadapan Jr. tells us why.
The owner of Plastic Coast Factory Next Green Enterprise admitted not paying factory worker Russell Manyoza the proper wages. According to the city's Workers' Affairs Office, Manyoza should have received 55,000 pesos for the 5 months of work he rendered for Next Green. During a meeting, Next Green's owner said there was a misunderstanding which led to the wages being paid in coins.
Yung coins hindi naman intended sa kanya is for my religious thing. But regardless of nagkamali man or what, di ba? It's my command of responsibility. So I'll accept anything na lang. Wala na. Hindi na ako contest.
Manyoza insisted, however, that the factory intended to pay him in coins to spite him after he complained about its labor practices. Valenzuela City Mayor Rex Gatchalian, meanwhile, was not convinced by the owner's defense and said the company also has other violations, which include unpaid statutory benefits, including Social Security System, Pag-ibig, and others.
It doesn't look like it's an accident. Kasi una, nagkaroon kayo ng alitan, binarangay kayo, nagalit ka, pinabalik mo siya ng Sabado, tapos nagkataon lang na Sabado coins yung ibabayad sa kanya at barya. Parang napaka-coincidental naman.
The local government says it will look into the company's public documents to check into unpaid statutory benefits.
They were supposed to produce documents but they're waiving that. They're accepting all their mistakes. So they will be suspended officially by today also, before lunchtime. 15 days to rectify all the concerns of not just Russell but all the workers in that area. A failure to do so means revocation, but that doesn't preclude us from filing legal cases because nga maraming labor laws na nalabag.
Meanwhile, the Department of Labor and Employment is also conducting its own investigation against the company due to complaints of unfair labor practices. Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III says the company is in big trouble for violating such offense. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, or PHIVOLCS, advised residents in Metro Manila, especially those living in immediate vicinity of Taal volcano, to wear face masks to prevent inhalation of sulfur dioxide being emitted by the volcano. Dante Amento tells us why.
Citing information from NASA's ozone mapping instrument, Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, or PHIVOLCS, Director Undersecretary Renato Solidom confirms the sulfur dioxide from Taal volcano has spread over the Batangas, Laguna, Cavite, Rizal, Bulacan, Pampanga, Bataan, and Zambales provinces and the NCR. Solidom adds sulfuric gas emission by Taal volcano reached Metro Manila due to the change of wind direction.
Yung tulak po o ihip ng hangin ay papunta sa northeast, palayo sa Metro Manila. Pero siguro doon sa mas mataas ay nagkaroon ng pagbabago at natulak ang hangin na may daladalang sulfur dioxide gas over Metro Manila at karating na probinsya. So nakadagdag ito doon sa pangit na kondisyon sa Metro Manila.
Last Monday, Taal volcano had over 14 tons of sulfur dioxide emission. But Director Solidom explains situation in areas affected by volcanic smog depends on the existing temperature inversion. It is a reversal of the normal behavior of temperature in the atmosphere, which a layer of cool air near the Earth's surface is overlain by a layer of warm air. It prevents the smog to escape to the upper atmosphere.
Dito naman sa Kamaynilaan ay dahil po patuloy naman ang pagpapatakbo ng mga sasakyan at pagkakaroon ng human activity na nagdudulot ng emission, yung temperature inversion ay nagdulot ng pag-accumulate ng smog dahil po sa pollution na kung saan hindi nga makaalpas. So dumami ng dumami at kung mapapansin natin, yung air quality ay naging mas pangit magsimula po nung weekend sa ilang bahagi ng Metro Manila.
Sulfur dioxide gas, according to volcanologists, is acidic. It's colorless but smells burnt gunpowder. Some of its harmful effects are eye, ear, throat, and respiratory tract irritation, with severities depending on gas concentrations and duration of exposure. People with existing health conditions, asthma, lung or heart disease, the elderly, pregnant women, children are vulnerable to the effects of the gas. PHIVOX reminded the public to protect yourself by wearing face masks. The agency also encouraged people to drink plenty of water and to limit exposure to the gas. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
A policewoman who donated breast milk to infants in need in Baguio City was lauded for her selfless and kind act. Philippine National Police Chief Police General Guillermo Eleazar said Corporal A. Marie Boadilla's gesture to provide breast milk for infants whose mothers are unable to feed them or cannot lactate is a unique act of public service, as he lauded the police for going beyond the call of duty. Eleazar said he hoped that other police officers would be inspired by Boadilla's service to others, even as he assured that the policewoman would be given due recognition for her good deed. And before we close, we will leave you with the final word, giving glory to God. From the book of Proverbs, chapter 17, verse 22, it says, "A merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bones." And those are the reasons behind the news, June 30, 2021. I am Harleen Delgado.
Reason delivered by the old and I look after the third.
And because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.